Hey there, Saints of St. James. This is our November Fireside chat. I have my trusty Fireside behind me. It's getting kind of warm in here. It's also the November newsletter. These are the same thing. This is being presented to you both in video and written format. So you can watch this or not. I enjoy giving it to you verbally. That doesn't sound right. I enjoy talking to you as well as writing to you, so that's the reason I do this. Makes it a little more personal, I think. So we got several items on the November agenda here to talk about, and there may be more later. But first of all, has to do with MAGS, Maybank Area Good Samaritan, which many of y'all have volunteered for in the past. St. James works at MAGS twice a year, as you know, and we will be working for 2 weeks as volunteers from November 30th, Monday, through Friday, December 11th. And the time is 9 o'clock till 10:30 a.m. That's not very long, Monday through Friday. 2 weeks. And we need 2 volunteers from the parish each day, just 2. Used to be more, but Kelly has reorganized the system to comply with COVID restrictions to maintain minimum contact with clients as well as workers. And Kelly and her 2 volunteers, of which you can be one, are required to wear masks and are the only ones allowed in the building. So it's done very safely. They will gather food items, box them, and deliver the food boxes out to the people who are waiting in their cars. If you want to volunteer, then be sure to text or call or email Susan Dahlman, and her phone number and her email is on the written copy of this presentation, so she can keep track of the schedule. The next thing I want to talk about was our current class, When the Lord is My Shepherd class. We only have 3 more classes of this Psalm 23 class left, and they are scheduled to conclude that series on the Thursday before Thanksgiving. But if for some reason we really get into some of these discussions and it takes a little bit longer to get through, we can always stretch it a week or 2 after Thanksgiving. But under no circumstances are we doing anything on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. However, we meet in church at 1 o'clock on Thursday, distanced with mask, and also a Zoom meeting that night. Actually, Google Duo is what we use, at 6 p.m. Bishop Sumner's visitation. The bishop is scheduled to be with us on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, November 22nd, which is Christ the King Sunday. That's the last Sunday of the church calendar, when everything culminates, when Jesus Christ becomes the King and Lord of all. And it's a powerful celebration. Advent begins the week after that in preparation for Christmas. We're almost there. But Bishop Sumner, who will be here the 22nd, is only doing outdoor services. So if it should happen to rain, he'll reschedule, and I guess I'll preach. But hopefully the weather will continue to be as beautiful and relatively mild as this fall weather can be. And we will pray that the rain holds back and that we have another beautiful day. The Daughters of the King have a special meeting November 22nd, right after church, right after the bishop is done. And they will meet to make Christmas crafts for the women, the mothers, and Forever Family. Details will be coming more about that to those of y'all in DOK. But you can put that on your calendar, same day the bishop's coming. I want to say a little word about Sunday worship. Worship attendance was kind of low last week, which was unfortunate because we had a beautiful, beautiful day and a beautiful service outside. We had 24 people there compared to 42 the previous week. And there's probably lots of reasons for that. I know that some folks are traveling, and a few had some medical issues going on that were fairly serious. And a couple may have actually thought it was just too cold, because it was pretty chipper the weekend before. But just FYI, this was All Saints liturgy done outside in beautifully warm, sunshiny weather. We set up our makeshift altar right there by the columbarium, which was perfect for All Saints Sunday. because we remembered the faithful departed by name, and we were right there in the midst of them. Plenty of warmth, plenty of warmth. In fact, there were many who were just too warm out there in the sun. The opposite complaint of the week before. The gazebo area, which you may remember our first 2 times out for outdoor worship were held there, that can be a little chilly there because it's all shade. And a couple of folks have complained of allergic reactions after those services, possibly due to the moisture and vegetation in that area, because it's certainly going to be damp over there in the morning. So this Sunday, we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to go a slightly different setting, just to the right of where we were last Sunday. We'll be facing the not the columbarium, we'll be facing the gazebo, we'll be facing the garden. Just over to the right side of the church, between the church and the field next to it. There's a little walkway there by the church that's never used, but that's where we'll set up the altar. And the reason we're doing this, it will allow some to sit in the shade in the parking lot, and this is behind the church now, and it will allow others to sit in the sun. So you can choose whether you want to be warmer or cooler. Our efforts continue to be a work in progress, but we're trying to make it the most comfortable environment we can for y'all. And the outdoor services, I think most will agree who have taken part in them, are a lot of fun, a lot of energy. We're able to sing and have as many people as we want, as long as we keep that 6 feet distance between us and wear our mask. We have to do that. But it just makes it so much nicer than having multiple services inside. And we're much more limited inside. It's supposed to be another absolutely beautiful day in the mid-70s this Sunday, if you can believe that still. So, y'all come, and don't only come, bring a friend, bring a neighbor. Dress in layers, if you're one of those cold-natured folks. But be prepared to shed the threads, if need be as well, because it's going to be pretty nice. Just a word about some of the prayers that have been requested. Ken is still in ICU in Kaufman, but is responding to the treatment, the last I heard. He has a serious infection, but he is responding. That's all I know at this point. I didn't get a chance to talk to Shirley today, maybe tomorrow. Paul and Gloria, who were both in the hospital with some serious stuff going on, are now home and recovering, doing better. Please continue to keep them in your prayers as they recover more fully, though. And Karen's dad, Bob, has been released to a COVID step-down unit and will return to his nursing home hopefully within a week. And when he arrives there, he'll be in quarantine in the quarantine ward for 2 more weeks, and then he gets to go back to his room. Amazing. He's almost 95 years old, and he came through this really, really well. Very fortunate, because he had a lot of stuff going on when he went in there. So we need prayers of thanksgiving for each of those people and the prayers that have been answered and are being answered as we continue to remember them. I mentioned the cooler weather coming on. We all know it's going to come sooner or later. It's not going to be in the 70s forever. But we are looking ahead at dealing with cooler weather. Obviously, we can go back inside if it gets really, really cold with multiple services. But we now have an FM transmitter. And the cool thing about that is that it will allow us to go into our cars if the temperature is just too uncomfortable for you. And you can listen to the service on an FM station. I suppose even if it starts pouring down rain, everybody can get in their cars, and I'll be the one outside still doing the service that you can see and listen to. Communion can be brought to your car in that case. The possibility of getting a few outdoor patio heaters is also something we're thinking about. That they provide a lot of warmth. If you've ever gone to a restaurant with a patio, you can stay pretty warm next to those, and they usually have kind of an umbrella top where it really spreads out. At the end of November, I'm going to be on a Zoom conversation with the bishop and most of the priests about some possibilities, exploring possibilities about Christmas worship, especially if our protocols are tightened, because of the escalating COVID virus. And even if it's not, it may be difficult to get us all in there who want to come for one service. I want to share a little bit about the bishop's letter that he sent out to the clergy on All Saints' Day. Just a few things, a kind of a button summary here. There will be a Zoom conversation for priests at the end of the month to explore Christian worship. I just mentioned that. He continues to listen to his medical advice committee, which I got to be on one of those panels the other day to listen to what they had to say. There's a couple of epidemiologists, and the others have various other disciplines in the medical field. But he listens to them, especially in the midst of this current COVID surge. And he promises that if there's any changes, if the protocols are going to be tightened in any way that will change the way we worship, he will try to give us as much advance warning as possible. It seems like in the past it's always been Thursday or Friday we hear about it. So hopefully we'll get a little more notice than that. And then he reviewed a summary of the COVID protocols in a very brief way, but I do want to go over what he said. We continue to follow the best practices of at least 6 feet distance between each person, mask and cleanliness whenever we meet, any meeting, inside or outside. He says even outdoors, masks must be worn over the mouth and nose. We encourage worshiping outdoors, he says, as long as we can, because it's the safest way to worship. And we can have the most people. We can actually be one congregation doing that. Not only that, we can sing congregationally outside, which is pretty neat. If we worship inside, we need to measure and mark 6 feet so that we're sufficiently distanced. And we do that. You've seen the pieces of tape on the back of the chair that I put on there. They're all measured off very, very clearly. So far right now, as long as the schools are allowing children to learn in the classroom, we're allowed to keep doing that. But should they no longer allow the children to worship, be taught in the classroom, we can no longer worship as we're doing currently. We'll have to tighten up as well. The bishop forbids the common cup meaning the main chalice that I celebrate with at the altar, and I'm the only one that drinks out of that. He forbids it to be used, obvious reasons, I hope you see, based on the pandemic. And he has received several questions about individual cups, disposable or not. We were way ahead of the curve on this one. He says as long as we do it carefully in terms of good public health, he's okay with it. We were the very first in the diocese to do this. I want you to know, I think it was our second service when we first started, and others didn't catch on for months. So the bishop wants us to continue with a good discipline in how we distribute communion so that the giver and the receiver are not exposed too closely to a number of people. Well, in my opinion, our practices have met that protocol and more. I think we do this as careful as anyone in the diocese, or more careful than anyone in the diocese. But that's just my opinion. The bishop comes, he may see things different and offer a few suggestions. Depending on his ongoing conversations with his medical advisors, a return to having only 10 at worship is a possibility during the present surge. Not a sure thing, but it could happen. However, if it does happen, that will allow us to continue to do outdoor worship as we're currently doing it, with as many as we want, as long as we're distanced and masked. Finally, the bishop made it very clear that we ought not to anticipate a more permissive regimen until there is a vaccine. Okay, so if you're wondering, when are we going to go back to usual? Well, we're not even going to talk about that until we have a vaccine, and then we'll see what happens. I want to ask you to please welcome our newest guest who's been with us the last 2 weeks, John Antonis. I hope I'm saying that right, John. He lives around the corner on Chaparral, and his wife is a nurse at Parkland. She works with the neonatal unit. She is one of the superheroes. I plan to do an interview video with John and also with Joe and Carla Russo very soon. and pass it along to you so that you'll know a little bit more about them. You can see their faces, hear their voices, and hear them say a little bit about themselves. In the meantime, I'm sure you will share that St. James love that you do so well with all of the new people who come to our church. Well, that's about all the news I have for November right now. If anything else comes up, any other events or any other prayer requests, I will certainly let you know. In the meantime, we're in difficult times. I know you know that. So y'all hang in there. Stay safe and keep the faith. I love you guys. Mas tarde.